What's up, everybody? My name's Josh. I'm the fantasy football buff. You can find me on Instagram at fantasy.football.buff. And today I'm going to be talking about Terry McLaurin, but more specifically, I'm going to answer the question, can Terry McLaurin be a wide receiver one in redraft leagues in 2020? So without further ado, let's get it. Terry McLaurin was drafted in the third round in the 2019 draft by the Washington Redskins and had a very impressive rookie season. As you can see from his stats here, was just short of 1,000 yards, had 7 touchdowns, and had 15.8 yards per reception. That's 12th best in the league, which is incredibly impressive considering he only played 14 games and that his quarterback play was absolute trash. So first, let's start out by talking about Terry McLaurin's physical ability. He was the 4th fastest 40-yard dash in 2019 Combine with 4.36 seconds for the 40-yard dash. That's 0.03 seconds slower than DK Metcalf. So he is as fast as Metcalf is. His speed score was in the 95th percentile. And last season, he was ranked number 1 in the NFL in contested catch rating. Now, for those who thought that Terry McLaurin was a short, fast guy after the Combine, that is just not the case. I mean, the man is 6 feet tall and can catch any ball you throw up to him. And funnily enough, the QB rating for quarterbacks when targeting Terry McLaurin was a 115.9, which was 10th best in the league. Terry McLaurin is not only a freak athlete, but an amazing route runner and an amazing wide receiver. I personally am not the biggest film guy. Terry McLaurin's a fun person to watch, but I'm not excellent at breaking down film. In the bio below, I have a link to a video by my guy, Billy Stevens, who breaks down Terry McLaurin film and shows why Terry McLaurin could be an elite talent. So after this video, go watch that one and you'll be absolutely sold on Terry McLaurin as an NFL wide receiver. Terry McLaurin's fantasy season back in 2019 was a roller coaster. He went undrafted in the vast majority of leagues and was the waiver wire darling in weeks 1 and 2. Weeks 1 through 16, he finished as the wide receiver 25. And so he was a high-end wide receiver 3 in fantasy finish, but he started off the season hot. Like weeks 1 through 3, as you can see here, he was the wide receiver 10 while Case Keenum was under center. He does get injured in week 4, and then in weeks 5 through 13, it was not pretty. 5 through 13, Terry McLaurin was the wide receiver 43 in PPR formats, and that is what everybody's remembering. Everyone remembers that, 8-week stretch where he was just completely unusable and almost not even worth a roster spot. But people are forgetting how Terry McLaurin finished the season. As you can see here in weeks 14, 15, and 16, Terry McLaurin was the 6th best wide receiver in all of fantasy football, and that is with Dwayne Haskins under center. Now, it is very easy to look back at players' play logs, game logs, and point out very specific small sample sizes and say, oh, he was an elite wide receiver during that time. But I think these windows are more indicative of the future, right? I think Haskins came in as a rookie, McLaurin also a rookie, right? The offense was not clicking. The offense was terrible. Once they got a groove and once they started bonding, Terry McLaurin was the 6th best wide receiver in fantasy football, and I think that might be a slight glimpse into their future together. I believe there's a bright future for this Redskins offense moving forward, and I mean, if you look at it, Terry McLaurin could not have been put in a worse situation for his rookie season. I mean, they were the lowest scoring offense in the league. They fired their head coach halfway through the season, and Bill Callahan, the interim head coach, all he did was wanting to run the ball. So they were the bottom 5 in the NFL last season in pass attempts. And a rookie quarterback who was not ready to be an NFL starter got pushed into the starting lineup with the Case Keenum injury. And now Ron Rivera comes in, and head coach who has had offensive success in the past. Now, Rivera, in an interview, compared Terry McLaurin to DJ Moore, and I believe McLaurin could have a very similar season in 2020 to what DJ Moore did in 2019, when Moore saw 130 targets and was the wide receiver 12 in fantasy football. Now, Haskins has had a full offseason to continue to train, to learn the playbook. The man has lost a bunch of weight, and I believe there are brighter days ahead for Haskins, especially because he, again, wasn't ready to start last season. He was put on the worst offense. He was set up to fail, and I believe he is not a bust like many people are saying he will be. But one thing that nobody is talking about this Redskins offense is that they were, they lost 25% of their targets last season during the offseason. 25%. I believe that was 6th overall in the NFL. And I understand that they added some pieces in the offense or over the draft, but Terry McLaurin saw 23% of the team's target shares last season, despite only playing 14 games. And I do not see anyone on that offense who's going to stop Terry McLaurin from getting 25% or more of the Redskins' target share going into 2020. Now, here's the question everybody is asking going into 2020, and that is, what is Terry McLaurin's ceiling for next season? Now, let's look at the Redskins' defense. They gave up the 6th most points back in 2019, but this team was refusing to pass the ball, yet McLaurin still saw over 6 targets a game. Now, even with the addition of Chase Young, I'm expecting that offense to need to pass the ball to stay competitive, and I'm expecting Terry McLaurin to see a lot of volume in 2020. We all know that Terry McLaurin was teammates with Haskins back in college. I also want to highlight that McLaurin, even as a rookie, saw 98% of the team's snaps back in 2019. That's 4th most in the league. He was 3rd in the league in team route participation, running 93% of all of the Redskins' routes last year. But what I really want to talk about is his dominator rating, which is a rating given by Player Profiler, and that is the percentage a player saw of their team's receiving yards and receiving touchdowns. McLaurin was 2nd in the league, seeing 36.7% of all of the Redskins' receiving yards and receiving touchdowns. McLaurin was on pace for 106 targets in 2019. So let's say, hypothetically, that the Redskins moved from a bottom half, right? They were bottom 5 in pass attempts to more middle of the pack. So they were at 479 pass attempts. Let's give them a conservative 550, which would have them right at that 16, 17, 18 pass attempts mark in the NFL. Let's give Terry McLaurin 23% of those targets, which I still think is conservative. I think he could see more than that percentage. And that would give Terry McLaurin 126 total targets on the season. Now, even with horrendous play, right, and only 93 targets, Terry McLaurin was the 25th best wide receiver in fantasy football. With his efficiency, with his talent, and even with just slightly better quarterback play, if you give McLaurin 126 targets, he is going to be a top 12 wide receiver. I don't say high-end wide receiver 1, but his ceiling is in that wide receiver 9 to wide receiver 12 range, which is a great value for where he's going at in draft. Before I talk about Terry McLaurin's redraft value, if you guys have enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments below who you want me to do a review on next. All right, Terry McLaurin is currently being drafted as the wide receiver 27 overall. That's the 64th pick in the middle of the 6th round. He's going behind players like Devontae Parker and like DJ Chark. Let's not forget that on one of the worst offenses in the league, with a rookie quarterback, as a rookie with limited volume, McLaurin still finished as the wide receiver 25. Yes, his numbers, it was a roller coaster, right? But he finished as the wide receiver 25. I believe McLaurin is being drafted at his absolute floor. Even if Haskins ends up being a total bust and that offense continues to struggle in 2020, I believe he has at least a 100 target floor and shouldn't finish any lower than the wide receiver 30, right? That offense physically can't get any worse than they were last season, and Haskins will improve. I believe that there is a 60 to 70% chance that Terry McLaurin will at least be a top 20 wide receiver. And he has legitimate wide receiver 1 upside due to the volume and efficiency that he will have in 2020. I am willing to take a chance on McLaurin in the 6th round. I'm smashing that pick every time. But I am willing to take him even a round earlier in the 5th round. He is a legitimate value in drafts. And if I can get him in the middle of the 5th round as my wide receiver 3, I'm doing that every single day of the week. And in Dynasty formats, I also believe he's a value. I believe in both Dynasty leagues and redraft leagues, he is being dragged down, his ADP is, because of this worry that Haskins will be a bust. And if you do buy into that future, if you do believe that Terry McLaurin is going to take that step forward, him being outside of the top 25 wide receivers is a value. And if he does hit that upside that I'm talking about, now is the lowest point for you to go acquire Terry McLaurin. So I understand the risks with Terry McLaurin. I understand his downside. I understand that the vast majority of last season, while Haskins was under center, you did not want Terry McLaurin on your fantasy football team, but I believe there are brighter days ahead between the volume, between the increased efficiency, between the improvement of that offense as a whole. I think Terry McLaurin is going to shock a lot of people, and I do believe he has legitimate wide receiver 1 upside. Let me know in the comments below if you agree with me, and of course, hit that subscribe button. Go follow me on Instagram at fantasy.football.buff. I appreciate you all, and we'll see you next time. Peace.